Are OB signals formatted and distributed as efficiently as they could be? Try a tailboard router. Hello and welcome to the fourth episode of Connecting OB, discussing the challenges of outside broadcasting. Providing the correctly formatted signals for all of the production participants and distribution outlets can present a challenge even for a studio-based operation. Now this challenge can only get larger for OBs where production requirements often change on a daily basis. A tailboard router provides an output signal formatting and distribution system separate from the main production router but with the potential for some user self-service. OB vehicles are commonly designed with multiple output lines, each allowing the program to be formatted in diverse ways. And here we can see an OB feeding two different broadcasters, each with their own video and audio requirements, and also an audience area and presenter again with different audio and video combinations required by the end users. Traditionally, each of these signals forms the input to a distribution amplifier, and the cable that carries the signal to the final destination is plugged into a DA outlet on the OB's tailboard. As we can see here are the originating sources, some local processing and the distribution. Now this can work okay as long as all of the planning is correct and nobody changes the requirements once the setup is completed. If the lines output the OB were to feed a tailboard router and the outgoing cables were plugged into that, it would be easy to reroute one of the lines should the recipient find their requirements have changed in some way. This not only makes the reaction time to changes quicker, it also saves an engineer from having to dig their way through the mass of cables hanging from the tailboard and of course prevents the risk of accidental disconnections. If further processing can be provided, dedicated to the tailboard router, it would allow further signal reformatting. Now whilst this is possibly not a major requirement for the program distribution, it does provide means to tailor the signals for use within the production. For example, if processing for colour and aspect ratio is provided, you can adjust the pictures used on the Envision monitors. And by providing further audio signals, such as the aux outputs from the audio desk, individual picture and audio combinations to be made for each of the presenters or for use in the green rooms. A tailboard router can simply be a number of the outputs from the production system allocated for this use, where the signals are either physically or virtually re-entered. However, this might be considered wasteful of the large router's resources, and as an alternative, it might be better to install small 40 to 72 squared auxiliary routers such as this. Main router connected to the tailboard router and then broadcast presenters' audiences fed from that. And you can see here some local processing hanging around that router. Now because of the potentially complex nature of tailboard routing, users often use an example of workflow monitoring in the form of a graphical representation of the routes, showing who's receiving what and what processing has been applied to it. And this greatly simplifies the operation. If you should choose the separate router approach, you could even consider providing an extended control environment, so users can use things like their mobile phone to make source selections and change the signal parameters. However, many OB operators are probably nervous about providing this kind of remote access into their main production environment, but if you use a hybrid approach where the broadcasters receive their signal from the tailboard router or even still from the main router, and the presenters and the audience are fed from another secondary tailboard router, then this segments the control system and should provide a safe environment to provide this kind of control. OB trucks have been designed for a long time with a single large router at the heart of the signal switching, but signal distribution continues to be by plugging things in onto the tailboard. Now is the time to apply some routing technology and workflow monitoring to this task and remove its Cinderella status. With the time constraints often imposed on OBs, providing tailboard router allows for change to be easily made to signal distribution without disturbing the main production. And with a suitable control interface, this could even be by end users. All of this is easy to do, so why isn't it done more often? Let us know on connectingob.tv or use hashtag connectingob on Facebook, LinkedIn or Twitter. Next time I'll cover some advantages and the pitfalls of video over IP. Thank you for watching.